Hello guys, welcome to Newzee. A new NASA study says coastal flooding is a far more urgent problem than previously thought. Cities along coasts should expect a surge of flooding as soon as next decade.
So in the coming decades, as sea level continues to increase from global warming, and it's increasing across the globe, the combination of sea level rise associated with global warming and then natural drivers of sea level variability, so the things causing sea level to go up and down just naturally in the ocean, are going to combine to cause coastal flooding. And what we found is that this increase in coastal flooding is really going to be increased significantly in the coming decades, specifically in 2030 to 2040.
The dramatic prediction pushes the previous deadline for disastrous coastal flooding forward by about 70 years.
We've known that sea level rise is a problem and that it's going to be a problem into the future. What's different about this study is the immediacy of the problem. So a lot of times as scientists, we give projections of sea level out to 2100, but here we're making this assessment that shows a dramatic increase in the impacts we're going to see along the coast in the coming decades. So in this decade and the next, we're going to see this big shift in the flooding that we're used to now to a kind of a new paradigm. We're going to see a new level of flooding that we're going to have to learn to live with, adapt to, and just address in order for us to go about our daily lives in these coastal communities.
The study, Rapid Increases and Extreme Months in Projections of the United States High Tide Flooding, was published in the Nature Climate Change Journal. It was led by members of the NASA Sea Level Change Science team. The study focused on the US coasts but was applicable to the whole world.
In the background, we have long-term sea level rise associated with global warming. It's causing sea level to increase everywhere. But when we look at the other factors causing sea level to change, we focused in on one in particular. So what we call the nodal cycle, associated with basically the orientation, the relation of the moon relative to Earth. And what happens is that there's this very long period signal, roughly 20 years. And this effect from the moon causes the tides to vary. So what we found is that this effect lines up with the underlying sea level rise, and it will cause flooding specifically in that time period from 2030 to 2040.
According to NASA, the cause is a perfect storm of global warming and the effect of regular lunar cycles. Of particular note is a dynamic called moon wobbling. The effect of the dynamic highlighted by NASA's team applies to the entire planet, save for northern coastlines like in Alaska. Such areas are rising due to unrelated geological process, NASA says.
There's been a lot of reaction to our study because I think it does change the perception a little bit of the impacts of sea level. So again, a lot of people, especially in areas that aren't experiencing any flooding right now, they think of this as a very long-term problem. But this study shows that because of how these different factors combine, we're going to see some near-term effects worsening in locations that are already feeling those effects, but starting in locations where they're not. So I think this is eye-opening for a lot of people. But again, I think it's really critical information for planners, and I think there's a great amount of interest in trying to get this information from science and scientists into the hands of planners.
So, what can be done? For starters, city planners should plan accordingly in their construction projects, scientists said.
So planners really have a wide range of horizons, planning horizons that they're dealing with. Different things along the coast require a different response. So a building or a particular piece of infrastructure, you may want to be there for a very long amount of time, whereas something else you may just want to protect or have access to for a few years. So as a scientist, we need to try to provide the information that matches up with those planning horizons and really gives them useful information. And I think having that link and that communication between the scientists and practitioners is a really critical thing that we need to invest time and a lot of attention to.
The NASA study echoes other dire predictions about coastal sea levels. A study in the journal Nature Communications found that tropical nations in particular will be vulnerable to coastal inundation. In new research that more than doubled the number of people estimated to be impacted. Using land elevation data gathered by laser pulses beamed by satellite to Earth, Scientists identified coastal areas low enough to make them vulnerable to a 1 meter rise in sea level, a level the world is on track to see by 2100. Higher water levels will likely lead to more damage and disruption from flooding and storm surges. The team found that 62% of these low-lying areas were located in the tropics, with a third of the total in Asia. Hope you guys like this video. Please share it and also subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon for latest updates. Thank you.